Hello, folks. Hope you're well. So, yeah, just spending time with God on a few things, and one of the points that I'm really sure that God was trying to help me to understand, or point two for me to talk about, was that one of the first things that we need to understand as people of God is that whenever there's a possibility that we would choose the wrong path, we're going to do so. When there was a possibility of the church choosing to go the wrong way, to be doing things according to the world's way, they were always going to do it. It was always going to happen. They were always going to train people according to a college system. They were always going to do it. Because it's the nature. The Jewish people wanted a king. Then they wanted a government. Then they wanted this, they wanted that, they wanted this, they wanted that. They had God. And they wanted anything other than God. Why did we think in any way, shape or form we would be better? That we could do better? No chance. No chance at all. We're going to do things in the same way because it's in the nature. It's in our nature to think that we know best. To think that, Even before as a Christian, we always had the understanding that we believed that the grass was always greener elsewhere. Yeah, we weren't taught to be patient. We weren't taught to do things right. We were taught to expect quick results. If we didn't get it, we would change to somewhere else because the grass was always greener elsewhere. It's our nature. We need to understand our nature because then when we are the leaders in a church, we need to understand temptation. We need to understand how church temptation is going to look. It's going to be very, very different to individual temptation. A church is a group of people. They will go down a certain path, but again, temptation will be offered. But as I say, and I've said, the temptation to have that easy life where you could have safe space Christianity, which is not biblical in any way, shape or form. If the early church was a version or the startup of Christianity, which it wasn't, because Christianity is a term of disparaging term by pagans on people that believed in Christ and wanted to give their life to Christ. It was a disparaging term. It's not a biblical term. You may have in Bibles that are written later the word Christian put in, but the word Christian wasn't around at the time of the early church. So therefore that's not what it is. The more apt name would be the prodigal church. If you're looking for a description of who we are the prodigal children. And I was speaking to God earlier about other things earlier. And yeah, it was about the way, the truth and the life. I was speaking to God about them. Because, the reality is, Christ is something very, very different to Gentiles than he is to Jews. The Gentiles never were looking for a Messiah. The Jews were. So therefore, before Christ, the Gentiles didn't have any relationship with the God of Israel. Not that we know of. Now, do I think that actually the God of Israel is the same God that other belief systems have? I think most likely yes. Certainly most cases, yes. There are a lot of similarities between different belief systems throughout history, and I think it's probably God who was speaking to people, or basically connecting to people in different ways then. According to how those... Well, as I say, it's like the video I did earlier about, churches sort of thing. About that people need to go to God. Because if there's a crowd of people, there's maybe one or two people there, and God knows exactly what they need to hear and how they need to hear it for them to be able to receive. That is the case with communities as well in history. So therefore, did God go to different communities in history? I think so. I think that is most likely to be the case. But not in the same way as he did with the Jews. So therefore, Christ, very, very different to Gentiles than he is to Jews. We get introduced to the Creator of heaven and earth through Christ. In most cases, that would be the case, wouldn't it? For Gentiles, that would be the case. We get introduced to the Creator of heaven and earth through Christ. Yeah. And yet to the Jews, they've been waiting for Messiah to set them free from their oppressor. The problem is what they never understood is the thing that oppressed them in their understanding was sin. And he did set them free from sin. But they were expecting him to set them free from their physical oppressor, not spiritual. And so therefore when he dealt with the spiritual, which is far more important because that's more eternal, they didn't recognize him because they were looking for someone to deal with the physical. Because they were very much based upon physical. And what they were physically going through on a daily basis. Well, that's why you got the things like the Wailing Wall. It's a very physical thing, isn't it? Yeah. But the battle was spiritual, not physical. And so there you go. But I say to us, it's our introduction to the Creator, God. And so, cool. Different ways. Anyway, there you go. I'll leave you to it. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.